After school, Jessica and Robert were ready for a first test run with the minibot. Robert wanted a quiet place, so other students wouldn't bother them. Jessica suggested the cemetery. The day was sunny, and the cemetery was fairly empty of visitors. "You were right. It's pretty quiet here," Robert said as he looked around. "Yes, almost peaceful," Jessica said, as she led him to a far empty section of the parking lot. "How'd you end up finding this place?" he asked. Jessica blinked. Well... His eyes widened. "Oh, do you know someone buried here? Geez, I'm sorry." "Oh, no. Never mind," she said, not having an explanation that he would understand. "Let's just get set up." The small bot was melted together with various metal parts from the junkyard and the remaining components bought at the hardware store, with a flat tray on its back. The arm had been fused together with an aluminum tubing, with the wires tucked inside. It was not yet painted, or officially named, but it was ready for a trial run. Robert set the minibot down, and then placed a soda can on the back of its tray. "Okay, Jess, this is our first test run for the minibot 5000, Robert announced. Jessica's eyes widened. "You named it after my choice? I thought you said it wasn't original enough." "Yeah, but it's the best name we have. And MB deserves one, so minibot 5000 it is. You ready to take some notes?" Lately, being with Robert and experiencing his kindness, Jessica felt an unfamiliar warmth inside her when she spent time with him and when he made nice gestures to her, like choosing her name for the minibot. She really couldn't remember feeling this way before, or maybe it had been so long that she'd forgotten. She wasn't sure if that was wrong or right, but she knew she enjoyed feeling good. She nodded. "Notebook. Check. Okay, switching on the minibot 5000. Turning on the remote. Here goes nothing." Robert pushed the knob on the controller forward. There was a pause. Then the minibot shifted an inch forward and started rolling. "Yes, it's working!" Robert shouted. Jessica smiled as excitement for creating something new rushed over her. "We actually did it!" "Okay, here goes the ultimate test." Robert pushed a button on the remote, and the tray rose slowly. Then he switched the button again, and the tray shifted back down. "All right," he shifted with excitement. "The lift works!" Robert directed the minibot 5000 to turn right and then left, then back around to stop in front of Robert's feet, right before a wheel surprisingly fell off. The minibot 5000 fell to one side. The soda can tipped over and fell to the ground. They stared at the wheel as it rolled off to the side. Then they laughed. "We can fix that," he said, and smiled at Jessica. "We succeeded with our first run of the minibot 5000. We make a good team, partner." Jessica nodded. "Yes." She took a deep breath. "And Robert?" "Yeah." Something fluttered in her stomach. "I would like to go to prom with you." Robert's smile got bigger. "You would? Awesome," he said. "I'll get the tickets tomorrow at lunch. I can meet you at your house before the dance." No. I can meet you there. It'll be easier for me." "Are you sure?" "Yes." "Oh, okay. We can go eat afterwards if you want. I don't know all the good places to eat yet, but maybe you can tell me your favorite." "Maybe. Just let me know what the color of your dress will be as soon as you know, so I can try and match the tux if possible. Depends on what's available at the rental." "Color of the dress? Oh, okay." "All right. Great, Jess. It'll be fun. You want to do the honors and get this wheel back on the minibot 5000? He offered her the socket wrench. Jessica gave a small smile and took the wrench. "Sure." Nurse Macy watched Jessica mopping the floor. Something was definitely off. Jessica stared into space, barely moving. Usually her head was down, as the girl was doing her best not to be noticed. And today, it was like she was in a trance. Nurse Macy recalled what Father Jeremiah had said. She could use a friend, I think. "Jessica, are you okay?" Nurse Macy asked her. "Do you need a break? How about some water? You could be dehydrated." Jessica blinked. "No, I'm okay." "Are you sure?" Jessica nodded. "If you need help with something, please don't hesitate to ask." Jessica stared at her for a moment. and Nurse Macy began to feel like Jessica would forget to speak when she finally blinked. "I am going to the prom," she said. Nurse Macy smiled, happily surprised. "That's wonderful! Who's the lucky boy?" "His name is Robert. He's my science partner." "I bet you're excited." Jessica didn't answer. "Is there something else bothering you?" Nurse Macy asked her. She wished she knew what was going on in her mind. "I've never been to the prom before. I don't know what to expect. And I don't know what to do about a dress." Nurse Macy looked at Jessica with compassion. She wanted to ask her, what about her mom or dad, or a sibling or a relative, but she felt those personal questions might shut down Jessica completely at this vulnerable moment. She didn't know Jessica's personal story, but she understood Jessica was fragile and secretive about her life. There appeared to be a sadness about her that never seemed to go away. In Nurse Macy's experience, deep trauma was usually the cause of that in the kids she cared for. Nurse Macy always had this drive within her to help others, especially caring for the young. Even though Jessica wasn't a patient, she could tell the girl needed her help. "Do you need some assistance in that area?" she asked her softly. Jessica stared down at the floor for a moment. Then Nurse Macy watched her nod her head up and down. It was very hard for Jessica to ask for help, and Nurse Macy felt a glow in her chest that she trusted her enough to ask. "I'm happy to help you, Jessica. I have an hour-long lunch break soon. We can go right to the department store, and I'll give you some advice on a dress. How does that sound?" "That would be good. I'll grab you when it's time." Jessica stood in a slim ankle-length lilac dress in front of a mirror in the fitting area of a department store. There were pale flowers etched into the design. The material was soft on her skin and beneath her fingers as she brushed her hand down her hip. She couldn't recall feeling a dress so soft before. She tried on a few before this one. There had been so many colors of dresses. Pink, white, blue, yellow, red, and black. Short dresses and long ones, off the shoulder, or with thin or thick straps. Puffy skirts or straight ones. Dresses that glittered or shined. She wanted to wear black, but Nurse Macy convinced her to try something with color. Jessica hadn't looked at the price tag, but she hardly used the money she got from the job at the hospital, so she had plenty of savings to buy the dress and some shoes. "Jessica, you look stunning," Nurse Macy said in her gleeful way. Jessica really looked at herself. She lost more weight recently, but she was still pretty, with her high cheekbones and full lips. Her hair was still thick and shiny. Her shoulders and arms looked delicate in the dress. In the mirror, she saw her lips curve, and for a moment, she could believe she was a regular girl, buying a dress to go to the prom with the boy she liked and who liked her back. That her life was normal and perfect. "I think I like it," she said with a small smile. "I do too. Let's get you some shoes to match." Deep down, Jessica knew this was like a fairy tale, and everything could burst and go back to the way things were soon enough. She asked Father Jeremiah if this was okay, to allow herself to have something for herself, and he seemed to think it was okay. To her, Father Jeremiah represented life and death and forgiveness. He had to know what was right and what was wrong, right? Because now, Jessica felt uncertain and fragile, feelings she didn't feel comfortable with at all. Nurse Macy brought over a matching pair of simple purple shoes. "What do you think?" Jessica slipped them on, and her height went up 2 inches. "They fit. Not only do they fit, but they are perfect. You are going to look beautiful on prom night, Jessica. And you are going to have such a wonderful time. Can you walk okay?" Jessica tried to walk and felt a little clumsy. "It's not as easy as it looks. I've seen a lot of women wear heels, but they walk so naturally." Nurse Macy giggled. "They were once like you. With some practice, you'll get the hang of it in no time. Just know it's normal for your feet to feel a little sore, especially after dancing. Don't ask me why we wear these things to torture ourselves, but they make our feet look pretty, don't you think?" "They do." Jessica glanced at Nurse Macy in the mirror as she gave her tips on how to walk confidently. Nurse Macy had always been kind to her, just as she was kind to all her patients. When other people at the hospital avoided Jessica, Nurse Macy always tried to talk to her, and now she was here, helping her when Jessica most needed it. Once upon a time, in her old life, Jessica may have considered her a true friend, and had she been a normal girl, she very much would have wanted to be a nurse, just like Nurse Macy. Someone she admired for her positive attitude and the way she cared for her patients. Bringing joy to others who were ill truly was a gift, just like the kind Father Jeremiah talked about. "I bet your family will love the dress you've picked out," Nurse Macy said, searching Jessica's gaze in the mirror. Jessica said, as she tried to think of a response. She supposed a typical parent would have loved seeing their daughter in a pretty prom dress, but that wasn't the case for Jessica. She tried to think of something to say, but her mind went blank. A saleslady walked by them in the fitting room and stopped. "Wow, your daughter looks gorgeous. Is this for prom?" Jessica and Nurse Macy locked eyes in the mirror, and Jessica had no idea how to respond. She simply looked down at her shoes, her hair shielding her face. "She does, doesn't she?" Nurse Macy suddenly said. "Yes, it is for prom, and this is the perfect dress. We will definitely take this dress and the shoes." Jessica raised her head and blinked in astonishment. She didn't question why Nurse Macy didn't correct the saleslady about being her mom. She guessed it really didn't matter. Explanations took too much energy sometimes. It was better just to let others see what they wanted to see. As Jessica continued to look at herself, she let hope spread inside her for the first time in a long time. Prom night was going to be perfect. After her shift, Nurse Macy wanted a nice hot meal while watching her favorite TV shows. She vowed she would get that soon enough. It had been about a week since she'd taken Jessica to buy her prom dress, and she'd been worrying with herself about what she should do. Should she leave well enough alone and let Jessica's business be? Or should she take action to help her? She finally decided to take action. Nurse Macy rechecked the copy of Jessica's work application that she'd submitted to the hospital and tried not to let the guilt get over her for invading the young girl's privacy or violating HIPAA. She read Jessica's address and put it in her phone's GPS app to guide her to Jessica's home. She felt she was doing this in Jessica's best interest by getting down to the truth of the teen's family life. Nurse Macy felt if she knew what was going on at home, then she would be able to help her. Maybe speak to her parents or her guardian, explain her worries about Jessica's health and demeanor. Perhaps even let them know that Jessica needed some help emotionally. Jessica was a wonderful girl. She deserved family support for things like prom. She deserved someone to take care of her. She deserved to be happy. Nurse Macy knew Jessica was hiding something about her home life, but she wasn't sure what it could be. Yes, she had a habit of sticking her nose where it didn't belong, but that was what made her a darn good nurse. She investigated the facts to better help her patients, and with Jessica, it was no different. When Nurse Macy saw someone in need, she reached out to help, especially when the poor girl had to ask her older coworker to help her get a dress for prom. Where was her mother or father? Or her guardian? Why wouldn't a 14-year-old have someone to turn to? It was so sad, and she just couldn't stand it. A few minutes later, she drove down an older section of town. Some of the streetlights were burnt out, and she could see many of the homes were run down. There were a couple of boarded-up windows with graffiti sprayed across garage doors. "Turn right on Cemetery Lane," her app relayed to her. Nurse Macy turned right. The night was clear, and the stars shined above the town. She drove past the cemetery, and looking at the dark gravestones, felt a shiver crawl down her back. Poor girl lives near the cemetery, she realized. Down at the end of the road was the last dilapidated house on the block. "Your destination is on the left." Nurse Macy pulled along the sidewalk and parked her car. She got out and clicked her car fob to lock her door. She took a deep breath and pulled her coat closer around her neck against the cold of the evening. She would simply explain to Jessica and her family that she was worried about her and wanted to make sure she was okay. Then she would speak to her guardian alone and explain her worries. She didn't want to embarrass Jessica at all. She walked up the cracked hallway to the door. The light was dim, and she could see the light on the inside through the curtains. The paint was chipping off the house and the door. Nurse Macy knocked. She heard a little dog bark and footsteps before the door swung open. An old woman with glasses stood in the doorway. She had curlers in her hair and no teeth. Nurse Macy could tell by the way her lips were pursed. Her skin was wrinkled and pale. She wore an old ripped robe, the color of the gray storm clouds. "Yes," the old woman said as she squinted at Nurse Macy through her thick glasses. "Hello, my name is Nurse Macy." "Nurse, don't need no checkup. Had one just the other day." "Shush up, Pipsy," the old woman said to her little barking dog. "Oh, no, I work with Jessica. Are you her grandmother?" Nurse Macy could understand clearly why Jessica didn't have the support she needed. If she was living with her grandmother, she likely had to take care of this woman, rather than the other way around. "Who'd you say? I don't have my hearing aid in. Can't hear as good as I used to." Nurse Macy leaned in closer. "Jessica, is she here? May I speak to you about Jessica?" "Jessica? Don't know no Jessica." Nurse Macy blinked in confusion. She stepped back to look at the house number. Is this 333 Cemetery Lane?" "Yes, but you have the wrong house. No Jessica here. Now I need to get back to my shows. Don't want to buy nothing either." "Oh, well, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened." The door was shut in her face, and then the porch light turned off. Nurse Macy sighed in frustration. "Where in the world are you, Jessica?" Jessica was in total darkness. Her surroundings were completely quiet, except for her breath. There was a coldness that penetrated her skin, straight to her bones, and she shivered. She touched her bare arms, and then her clothes. She felt the material of her prom dress. Why am I still wearing my prom dress? She wondered. Where was she? She put her hands out in front of her, trying to feel her way forward. But she saw nothing in front of her, and nothing behind her. Fear crashed over her. She was nowhere. Had she died in her sleep? Was this what the afterlife was like? Was she in some kind of in-between world? But she couldn't have died, she realized. It wasn't yet her time. She still had to go to prom. And she still had to help April. She felt for the pendant and gripped the metal that always felt warm to the touch. It was still around her neck. She started to walk forward, with slow, hesitant steps. She didn't know how long she walked. It seemed like forever. Out of nowhere, she finally heard a creak. A footstep. A movement. "Hello?" she whispered. "Is someone there? Please, if you are there, say something. I'm afraid. I can't see anything. Please, I don't know what to do." No answer. She licked her dry lips as she continued to move forward, trying to get somewhere. Anywhere. Was there a wall? A door, maybe? Another sound came from her. Metal creaking against metal. Jessica froze as awareness dawned. No. The sound happened again, but this time right behind her. A shudder of terror radiated down her spine. Jessica ran. She rushed forward as fast as she could, with her arms waving around her, wondering if she would collide with something. Metal footsteps stomped behind her. Quickly, too quickly. So close, so close. She blinked, trying to adjust to the dark, but she still could not see anything. In the cold, a sweat broke out on her body as she ran, trying to escape the terrifying thing that chased her. A tense grip curled around her arm. Jessica screamed, "No, please! Get away from me! Someone help me!" Quickly, the grip tore off her arm from her shoulder. She felt the warm gush of blood run down the side of her body. Her body vibrated in shock, her mouth open, gasping for air. Then she felt a grip on her other arm. Jessica tried to yank away when she felt her arm pulled from her bone. Jessica fell down in pain and agony, and it seemed like it took forever to collide with the hard, cold ground. She heard more creaks and movement of metal above her, and then she felt something cold grab the pendant on her neck before it was torn away from her. "No, don't take my pendant away!" Jessica jerked awake with a frightened scream. She was in her sleeping bag on the stone floor of the mausoleum. She pushed against the stone bench at her back and grabbed her mini flashlight, flicked it on. Her heart felt like it would pound through her skin. She swiveled the light around, looking for anything in the night. She listened for sounds of metal creaking against metal, but she could only hear her breaths filtering out of her mouth and crickets chirping in the night. She saw nothing around her but stone walls. She was truly alone. She touched the pendant against her chest as she calmed down. She was safe. "Everything's okay," she said aloud, and waited for dawn. when the soft rays of light peered through the colored glass window. Jessica looked around her dark and stale surroundings. Since staying in the mausoleum, for the first time, she saw it for what it really was. A cold, dark place for the dead. Not for someone alive. Not for someone who wanted to live.